I'm making a simple spaghetti recipe. It is 1 cup of flour for every egg. So when I make a ravioli recipe, I usually double it because I've got people who really like to eat raviolis. So normally a regular basic recipe is 5 cups flour, 5 eggs, and 10 to 12 tablespoons of water. I'm going to double that and make 10 cups. So right now I'm at 5 cups of flour. I do it in 2 batches, strictly because I don't have a bowl big enough. You make a hole in the middle. I will add 1 teaspoon of salt to the hole. And then I start to add my eggs one at a time. Now, I'm trying to be health conscious, so some of these eggs will be regular eggs and some will be an egg beater. It will work either way if you want to use the whole eggs and not combine with an egg beater. So one at a time, I'm going to add an egg in the hole. And let's add, see how much I got left on the egg beater, and if I've got 3, the equivalent 3 eggs, I will just do that. And that will make 5. And it looks like that's what we're going to have. Alright, now we'll set this aside for the next batch. I will get a fork, and we're going to start working from the outside in, mixing. I usually poke the eggs so the yolks are broken, and I slowly work it in from the outside in. Once we get this all incorporated, then we're going to use cold water, 1 tablespoon at a time, to get it to the right consistency. Now that this is mixed, and you notice it's not completely dough-like, it's kind of mealy. That's all right. We're going to still make that hole again, and we're going to start adding the cold water, 1 tablespoon at a time. It depends on I usually do 2 or 3 tablespoons at a time. That's 2. That's 3. And we start again from the outside in, working it in. As you see, it's still mealy. Try and get that hole back, and we're going to add 3 more tablespoons of water. One, 2, and 3. This helps get a good elastic consistency, this water. Pretty soon the fork's going to be going away, and it's only going to be by hand that you mix it. I think this is the last of the fork. Okay, 3 more, which will make 9 tablespoons. One, 2, 3. trying to get everything off the bottom. You want as much flour incorporated into this as you can. But it looks like I'm going to need more than the 9 tablespoons. I can tell right off the bat it's still too crumbly. Try and make a little well again. Now I'm only going to do 1 tablespoon at a time. Try and get all that flour off the bottom. This so far is 10 tablespoons of water. Still a little dry. I'm going to add 1 more. That'll make 11. And this might be enough. Yep, it feels good. So what we're going to do is knead this for a few minutes. Make sure the dough is completely incorporated. Just keep folding it over. And as you will see, this is 1 recipe of spaghetti dough. Since I am doubling my recipe, I'm going to sit this on my cutting board with flour, let it rest for a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and make another batch of spaghetti dough. Both recipes are done. I have the 5 cup of flour in this batch. The second batch is sitting on my stove in a bowl with a napkin over it to rest. While that other recipe is sitting and resting, I kind of kneaded this out a little bit and made it into, if you want to call it, a rectangle. This is just to make it easier to process it through the pasta maker, and I make it in sections. I try and get them as evenly proportioned as possible. A lot of times you can't, but you try the best. That pasta maker will really roll this out to long strips, and when you're making raviolis, you want a nice long strip that you can cut maybe in half. So you can have a top and a bottom. That way you can judge how many dozens you are making. There we go. I have gotten 5 out of that 1 batch. Hopefully this will make 5 dozen of raviolis. Now I have my 1 piece that I cut out. Doesn't look like much, but I kind of need it to make sure there's no points to it going in. I've prepared the bottom of my counter here with wax paper and flour because it does get a little messy. I also have prepared the rest of my counter with wax paper and flour, so when each sheet is done I could lay it on there so it can rest too. So as you see, I'm kind of thumbing it. Always have extra flour on hand. And then we're going to start. I have a KitchenAid, and I have the extra gadget here that makes the pasta dough. We start on number 1, which is the whitest, and then we're going to start it on speed 1, just slow. See, the wheels are turning. In order to get it started, I mash it down, and I process it through this one several times. notice it becomes pointy. I'm trying to make it as squared off like a ravioli press. And we do it again. I fold it over and then I start with the folded over to put it through the pasta maker. Still not a bad size. Gonna stop it, add some more flour, and then we're gonna change the setting to 2. On this one you have to pull it out to move it. You'll hear it snap in, and here we go again. The key is to get it thin enough so it's not a real heavy ravioli, but also you do not want it to get it too thin that when you start the press, all of the meat falls out. So it's a fine line. I usually go through each number setting twice. Go into 3, and as you notice, it's still a little narrow. So I might have to roll this over again and see if I can get it wider. So let's see what happens here on number 3. If 3 doesn't flatten it out wide enough, I will double it over and reprocess this all over again. So as you see, I'm finished with the number 3 setting, and the dough still looks a little thin. I'm putting my press and laying it on it. You really want excess to go over, because once you fill it, the holes with the meat, it's going to pull the dough in. So this is too narrow, so we're going to fold it over and repeat the process. I'm going to do it twice, like this. I'm going to start it back at 1. And if you notice, this was the end piece that I cut off. This usually happens in all of the end pieces. Alright, I put it back to setting 1, and we're going to go again. Hopefully this will widen it out a little bit more. And I can already tell in the very beginning that it does look like it's white, getting fatter. Just a little trick that you'll learn as you go through making these things. Flouring it back up again. Putting it on 2. And let's start again. As you see, it's wide enough. We've got excess, but it's not quite wide or long enough for it to cover this. So I'm going to put it on setting 4 and maybe only run it through once. We'll see how long it gets. Again, I don't want dough too thin that it will break when compiling it with the meat. I think this is going to work. Let's measure it up, put it upside down, and as you see, we do have excess. So this is a good one sheet. So this will be the bottom of the raviolis. I'm going to set it to the side on my prepared wax paper. Now for the meat mixture, I have, you can use ground beef, 1 pound. I used bulk Italian sausage and browned it up. And then while I was cooking that, I had gotten a 1/4 pound of spinach. I take the stems off, chop it up nice and small, and cook it all together with the meat. That cooks it down. So now that the meat is cool, I've added 2 eggs. Kind of mix that up a little bit. Even though I try and make it to be health conscious, I've tried using egg beater. It does not work in this. You need good old-fashioned eggs to mix it around. And the last thing that even binds it together better is a 1/2 cup of grated cheese. And we just, I use the Romano Asiago blend. It's a little more flavorful than just plain Parmesan. It has the 3 blend Parmesan, Asiago, and Romano. Mix that up real good, and we're ready to start filling our raviolis.
Start with, I take a little flour and flour up the mold. You can purchase these molds online or at your local Italian place if they have it. Things I have with me when I start is the flour, egg white, and the other part of the mold, rolling pin, and some small rollers. This one's a lifesaver. It comes from wallpaper, but it's clean. So after you flour that up, put this layer on. Get your mold. Press it down gently because you'll break through it if you press too hard. Slowly stretch it in there. Remove that. Set that out of the way. It's important to get your egg yolk in now. This is what makes it stick with the top. I think a paintbrush would work better, but I've never tried it. I don't think my wife will let me. But while she does all the other stuff, I'm usually over here in the chair doing this. And she gets all the glory. That's okay with me. We take our meat. I use a little scooper. And this is the best size to use. I'll set that maybe out of the way, but that's okay. I'll show you when I get it in here. I get a little scoop, about like that. Just plop it right down in and round it off when it gets in there. Because if you get too much, it'll break through. If you see too much, just move it. Nothing real precise. I used to think they all had to be exactly the same, but and once you get all that on, put on the next layer. Right on top. This is where my wife said make sure it's wide enough. You really want this wide where it covers. Once that's all on, I'll usually take the big one, roll over it gently. Now, if you had a way to roll over this and cut it like I've seen a lot of people on the internet. They make it look so easy, but it's not. It's never easy. I have a saying, this ain't nothing easy, and I prove that when I do anything. Once you get that, that's when I get the little guy, and I just kind of roll him all around the edges. And you start seeing the tray, you've probably gone far enough. Do this to get all the border off. Probably could have went a little harder with the big one. Once you start getting that up, start taking that off. Sorry if my hands are getting in the way. That just kind of breaks away as soon as you start getting it. Save all the excess because we'll be making noodles out of that at the end. Then you want to rub right down the middle. Get as thin as you can. When you start seeing the metal, you're probably getting thin enough. This has been the easiest way I have found to do this. Then go the crossways on each one. This is why they say it was made with love. Because if it wasn't love, I don't think you would do it. Once you get that out, pretty much like that right there, where you just start to see the metal coming through and it's starting to break, just flip it over and slowly start taking it out. This is why you put the flour on the mold, the side, and I use a paring knife. It's the easiest way. Just kind of rub it down and it'll start breaking it away. And if you cut the table, don't let your wife see it. They almost just pull right apart, but you got to roll it down thin enough. Try and do this in a way you can see what I'm doing. And that's it. 1 dozen raviolis. Ready to be put in the fridge. Now, this is what I was saying, if you overstuff it, they pop through. It's okay, it'll still be good. You can just kind of press that down. No.
Now for the ricotta mixture, I have 1 container of ricotta. It's about 15 ounces. A half a cup of the shredded cheese and a 1/3 cup of grated cheese. Added some salt, and now I'm adding the egg. Mix that up. Make sure it's mixed up real good. Get that egg really incorporated in it good. And we are ready to fill our cheese raviolis.
On the round ones, they're different. They're the cheese. That way we can discern which is cheese and which is meat. Most of the people like the round ones, the cheese. What I do is make a light impression so I can kind of see where it's going to be. Try to get as many as I can. It's a little bit harder actually, but they're a lot better. Might get one more. So on these, I will, once I get the impression, I'll go ahead and egg the whole thing. Probably should have only done with 6, but we'll figure it out. I put flour down on a board. It's nice to get a cutting board because you got to kind of shake it. This is where this comes in handy really well. Because if you scoop it, you leave that little round top because these are the opposite of the meat. Cheese is the top. This is the top of the ravioli. That's why I mark it. You can see where the center is at. If you use this on the meat, you don't need quite as much as it holds. But on cheese, you want all the cheese you can get in there. Okay, that's 7. Let's bring this over. I could have got another one, no, maybe not. Try to get all the way over. And try to get all the air bubbles out if you can. It's not easy. I kind of work from the middle and work my way out. I actually look for a round mold online. This is the only thing I've been able to find. And probably if you're looking for it, that's what you're going to find. And you come back and just kind of cut it in there. That's why you need the cutting board. You shake it, press it down. Like that. And that's the way that comes out. My cat wants to eat my lasagna, I think, or he's like Garfield, so lasagna wants pasta. Kind of, once you get it on there, you just kind of pull the edges away. And there is your 6, 7 cheese raviolis.
This is the second pile of scraps that we had left over from making both the meat and the cheese raviolis. And we have to rework the dough to get it to go back through the pasta maker to make it thin. And then what's left, we're going to be making actual spaghetti noodles. So I will show you the process. It takes a little longer on this. All right, now that we're trying, I took a portion of the leftover scraps, and it's really been reworked, so it has an attitude of its own. Keep trying. When I run it through the KitchenAid, you're going to see how it comes out. It's nothing like it is the first time. So what we do is just fold it over and roll it again. So we're going to do our first cut. I'm going to cut this in half. And work it a little bit more. Put some flour on it. I'm almost out of flour here. Alright, here we go. This is gonna, you almost have to manhandle it. Here we go, first pass. Don't get upset if it comes out in pieces. As you see, there's holes in it. We just flip it back around. And don't be worried if you have some meat or spinach in it. It'll work itself out. Run it through so it looks like there's no holes at all through it. We'll do it one more time. That's good. Now I'll put it on the next notch. Now for the noodles, you don't want it too thin. I'm only going to run it to setting 3, but I run it through twice. Alright, now we're going on the next setting, setting 2. If it comes out where it gets holes in it, just fold it over and rework it. But this one's looking pretty good. I had my previous batch, didn't look real good. One more time. Keep flouring it, even though it looks like it's got enough flour. It just helps the setting so we don't get holes in the pasta. On setting 3. And as you see, it is done. Nice looking reworked dough. A little bit of green to it, but that's okay. We're going to put it on a prepared wax paper and finish working up the dough, and then we'll put the attachment to make actual spaghetti. Now we're going to process the remaining of the dough into spaghetti noodles. I use the whitest setting of the attachments that comes with the KitchenAid attachment for pasta making. Put it on low and guide it through as best as you can. Make sure you hold it underneath. Some pieces will fall, and make it small, it doesn't matter. When you're cooking it up in a pan, they could care less whether it's small pieces or big. Then I put it over on the table with the prepared flour. And I try and lay it out a little bit so it doesn't stay on top of one another, so it can dry a little bit. But at this time in the name of the game, the dough is starting to dry out anyway, so it won't take that long to have it dried out before we put it in a Ziploc bag, and we'll freeze everything in the freezer till we're ready to use it.